Fear held her from becoming a bride of the village until a tribal chief heard her soul. The sun rose slowly over the rolling plains, painting the sky with soft streaks of gold and orange. Birds sang quietly in the tall grasses, and a gentle wind moved across the village, carrying the scent of sage and earth. Among the teepees and smoke rising from the cooking fires, a young woman moved carefully, her hands steady as she arranged baskets of berries for the morning meal. Her name was Wiaka, which meant feather in the Lakota tongue. She was called so for her light steps and graceful manner. Yet, despite her outward elegance, there was a weight in her chest that slowed her heart whenever she thought of the coming celebration. Today, the village would honor young women who were ready to become brides, to be chosen by families and suitors. Wayaka had watched these celebrations from the edges for years, her heart fluttering with curiosity, but fear always held her back. Wayaka's home was a small, tidy teepee at the edge of the village. Inside, soft hides covered the ground, and shelves of woven baskets held carefully stored herbs, beads, and tools. She moved among them with quiet care, arranging and rearranging, not because she was untidy, but because she liked the feeling of order around her. It made the world feel safe, a place she could control, at least in part. Outside, laughter and song rose from the central fire. The village was alive with preparations for the celebration. Young women braided their hair in intricate patterns. Older women shared stories of bravery and love, and children ran between the tents, playing and calling to one another. Wiyaka, however, stayed at the fringe. She watched the others, her eyes soft but distant. Her fear was not of the village itself, but of being seen. She felt as if all eyes would notice her hesitation, her small mistakes, her quiet voice. She feared being judged for not fitting the pattern of what was expected. Over time, her avoidance had become a habit. Even her closest friends could not coax her to participate fully. As she carried a basket of dried corn to the central fire, she caught sight of a figure standing slightly apart from the rest. Chief Mato was a tall man, his presence calm and firm, yet not commanding in a way that frightened others. He moved with confidence, but there was gentleness in the way he observed the village. His eyes, deep and thoughtful, seemed to see not only what was happening, but the hidden thoughts and feelings of those around him. Wiaka felt a flutter of nervous curiosity. She had heard stories of the chief's wisdom, of how he listened to the people and spoke only when his words could heal or guide. As Wayaka placed the corn basket near the fire, she felt a tug at her heart. Chief Mato's eyes met hers briefly, not with judgment or expectation, but with a quiet recognition. Something in his gaze made her chest tighten, not with fear, but with the strange possibility that someone might truly see her. She turned away quickly, as if hiding from the sunlight. She moved back toward her own space, toward the small patch of shade beside her teepee, where she could breathe without the weight of eyes upon her. The celebration would begin soon, and the drums would call the women forward. Wiaka's hands shook slightly as she smoothed the folds of her skirt. She could hear the music already, the rhythmic beating that would mark the steps of the girls walking proudly in the circle. Wayaka remembered the stories her grandmother had told her, stories of strong women who had listened to their hearts, who had faced fear and found their place in the world. She longed to be like them, yet fear always whispered that she was not enough. She would stumble, she would say the wrong words, she would be rejected. Better to stay in the shadows, where no one could see her trembling hands or hear the doubts in her voice. As she thought these things, a soft voice called from the edge of the gathering. Wayaka, it said. It was one of the older women, a friend of her mother, known for kindness and patience. Come help with the story circle. Your hands are steady and your eyes are bright. We need both today. Wiaka's heart leapt and sank at the same time. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to feel the warmth of the circle, to join the song and laughter, to be part of something that mattered. But the fear clutched at her, a heavy chain that pulled her back. She shook her head gently, her braids swaying. Not today, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rising music. The older woman nodded, not with disappointment, but with understanding. When you are ready, Wayaka, the circle will be waiting. Wayaka stepped back and watched from the shadows. She could see the other girls, their faces bright with excitement and pride, moving in time with the drums. Some laughed with nervous energy. Others held hands and supported each other. She felt a pang of longing, wishing she could join them without the fear that always followed. Her thoughts drifted to the plains beyond the village, to the quiet spaces where she often went alone. There, the wind carried no judgment, and the grasses whispered stories only she could hear. She imagined herself walking among them, the drums far away, the music in her heart instead of in the circle. In those moments, she felt free, but the village was not the plains, and the celebration would not wait for her to feel brave. As she moved slightly, she almost stumbled over a small child who had wandered too close to the fire. Wayaka caught the child's hand, steadying her with a gentle smile. The child looked up at her, eyes wide with trust. "Thank you," the child whispered. In that small moment, Wayaka felt a spark, a reminder that her presence mattered, even if she was not standing in the circle, even if she did not feel ready. From across the space, Chief Mato's eyes followed her again. This time he did not look only at what she was doing, but seemed to see her as she was inside, her quiet courage, her care for others, her deep sensitivity. Wayaka felt heat rise to her cheeks. She turned quickly, pretending to adjust a basket, but inside, a seed of something new had been planted. Someone had noticed her heart. The drums began to rise, a call that the celebration was ready to begin. Wayaka took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm not as a threat, but as a reminder of life moving forward, carrying everyone together. She wanted to step into the circle. She wanted to walk with the others and be seen, not as a trembling girl, but as Wayaka, strong, thoughtful, gentle, and real. Yet fear lingered, a shadow that stretched longer than the morning. She knew she could not yet step forward. Not today. But maybe, just maybe, she could begin to imagine a day when she would. Wayaka moved back to her quiet corner, arranging her baskets and beads, pretending to be busy. But her ears were tuned to the music, her eyes to the circle, and her heart was quietly listening for a voice that would speak to the fear inside her. The sun climbed higher, spilling golden light across the village. Shadows moved with the swaying of the teepees, and the drums beat steadily, like the pulse of the earth itself. Wayaka's hands worked, but her mind wandered to thoughts she had not dared to speak before, thoughts of courage, of connection, of being truly seen. She glanced again at Chief Mato, who had stepped closer to the circle but did not join it fully. He watched, not with expectation, but with quiet patience, as if he understood the rhythm of each soul in the village. Wayaka felt a strange comfort in knowing that someone could see her without needing her to change. She wanted to stay in the moment, to breathe in the warmth of recognition, to imagine a life where fear did not rule her heart. And in that moment, Wayaka realized something important. Fear was still there, yes, but it had lost some of its power. Because now, for the first time in a long time, she had been noticed, truly noticed. Not for what she could do in the circle, not for how she looked or what she might say, but for who she was. The celebration continued around her, full of laughter, song, and the rich rhythm of life in the village. Wayaka stayed at the edge, but her heart had shifted. She knew that she would not step into the circle today. But perhaps tomorrow, or the day after. Perhaps one day soon she would walk with the others, her soul unafraid, her spirit recognized, and her voice finally free. Until then, Wayaka would listen. She would watch. She would feel the music, the wind, and the pulse of her own heart. And in that quiet listening, she would begin to grow, not yet a bride of the village, but a girl learning to hear her own soul. The sun moved higher, the shadows shortened, and the plains beyond the village shimmered in gold. And in the midst of all this life, Wiyaka's small, quiet courage took its first step towards something new, a life that could be hers if she dared to follow the voice within. The morning air was soft and warm, carrying the scent of fresh earth and wildflowers across the village. Wiyaka stood at the edge of the celebration, her hands busy with small tasks, but her mind filled with thoughts she could not speak. Yesterday she had felt something she had never felt before, a recognition of her heart by someone she barely knew. Chief Mato's gaze lingered in her memory, not heavy or commanding, but patient and understanding. She shook her head, trying to chase away the feeling. The chief nodded as if he had heard these words many times before, yet he listened as if each one was new. Fear can hold us back, Wayaka, but it does not define us. Even the strongest warrior feels fear, and even the gentlest heart can be brave. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to move forward, even when fear is present. Wayaka looked at him, her eyes wide. His words were gentle, yet they carried a weight she had never known. For the first time, she imagined that fear might not be a prison, but a sign that something important awaited her. "Would you walk with me?" Chief Matto asked. "Not to the circle, not yet, but just for a while, to see the plains and hear their stories." Her heart fluttered. A part of her wanted to run, to hide in her baskets and beads, safe from the gaze of others. But another part, a small, daring spark inside her, wanted to follow. She nodded slowly, letting the chief lead her toward the edge of the village, where the grasses swayed and the wind carried whispers of old stories. As they walked, the world felt different. The sounds of the celebration faded behind them, replaced by the gentle rustle of the grass and the distant call of birds. Wiyaka felt her shoulders relax, her heartbeat slowing as the tension in her chest eased. Chief Motto did not speak immediately. He walked beside her in silence, allowing the wind and the land to guide the moment. After some time, the chief spoke again. "The plains have their own voice, Wiyaka. They tell stories of the people who have walked here before us, the choices they made, the courage they discovered. If you listen, you may hear what your heart wants to say." Wiyaka closed her eyes for a moment, letting the breeze brush her face. She could hear it, the gentle sigh of the grasses, the soft hum of life. And then, slowly, she felt a voice inside her, quiet and shy, but insistent. It whispered of bravery, of connection, of being seen. I, I hear it," she said softly. "I hear something calling me, but I am afraid." Chief Matto nodded, as if he understood completely. "Then we start here, with listening. You do not need to act yet. Fear is strong, but it can be softened with patience. When you are ready, your steps will follow the voice." They walked further, finding a small hill where the view stretched across the plains, endless and golden in the sunlight. Wiyaka gasped at the beauty, the gentle rolling land, the way the light danced across the grasses. It seemed alive, welcoming, not judging. She realized that the world could be both wide and safe, both beautiful and gentle, if she allowed herself to see it. Chief Mato sat beside her on a smooth rock, motioning for her to join him. "Tell me about yourself, Wiyaka. Not what you do or how others see you. Tell me about who you are inside." She hesitated. Her voice had always been quiet, and fear made it tremble. But now, in the presence of someone who seemed to see her soul, she felt a courage she had never felt before. Slowly, she spoke. I, I like to weave," she began, "and I like stories. I listen to the elders and remember what they say. I try to help where I can. But, most of all, I try not to hurt anyone or make mistakes, and sometimes I wish I could do more, be more, but I am afraid. The chief listened, nodding, his eyes gentle. Wayaka, being more is not always about doing more. It is about being yourself fully. The gift you have, your careful heart, your listening soul, is rare. Many spend their lives chasing what they think they should be, and they never see the power of who they truly are. Her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and relief. Someone was speaking to her as if her soul mattered, not just her outward actions. She realized how lonely it had felt to hide behind fear, to never let anyone see the real Wayaka. And now, someone did. Do you think I could ever be brave enough to join the circle? She asked, her voice trembling. Chief Mato smiled softly. Courage grows slowly, one step at a time. You have already taken the first step by speaking your truth. The circle will wait. And when your heart is ready, your steps will follow. For the first time in her life, Wiyaka felt a spark of hope. It was not a fire that would burn away her fear instantly, but a small, steady light that promised growth and possibility. She realized that bravery was not a single act, but a journey she could take with patience, guided by her own heart. They sat together for a long time, watching the wind move across the plains. Wiyaka noticed the patterns in the grasses, the way the sunlight fell in golden ribbons, the distant birds tracing arcs in the sky. She felt a connection not only to the land, but to herself, to the part of her she had kept hidden for so long. Thank you, she whispered, her voice small but sincere. I think I understand a little now. That fear is not the end of the path. Chief Mato nodded. It is only the beginning, Wiyaka. The voice inside you is strong, even if it whispers. Listen to it, and it will guide you to where you need to go. As they returned to the village, Wiyaka felt a shift inside her. The sounds of drums and laughter were still distant, but now they felt inviting instead of overwhelming. She moved with a lighter step, her eyes brighter, her mind quieter. The celebration awaited, but for the first time she felt that perhaps she could meet it, not with fear, but with curiosity, patience, and a growing trust in herself. That evening, Wiyaka helped to prepare the fire for the community feast. She worked alongside other women, her hands steady, her heart more open than it had ever been. Chief Mato watched from a distance, his gaze calm and knowing. He did not need to tell her what to do. Wayaka was beginning to hear her own voice, and that was enough. As the sun set, painting the sky with soft colors of purple and gold, Wayaka paused to look at the circle of women and children gathered near the fire. She did not step forward yet. Not tonight. But she felt a quiet certainty. When the time came, she would walk into the circle with courage, her soul shining, her heart fully alive. And in that moment, Wiyaka understood that she had already begun the most important journey of all, the journey of listening to her own soul. The morning sun rose slowly over the plains, soft and golden, spilling light across the village and the hills beyond. Wiyaka awoke with a sense of quiet excitement. She had dreamed of the wind moving through the tall grasses, carrying songs of the past, and of a voice that told her she could be brave. Today, she was not returning to the celebration, not yet. Today, Chief Mato had invited her on a journey beyond the village to the open plains, where the land seemed endless and the heart could speak freely. Wayaka felt a flutter in her chest. A part of her wanted to stay behind, hidden among the baskets and herbs, safe and small. But another part, a daring spark she had never felt before, urged her forward. She dressed simply, weaving her long hair into a single braid, and stepped quietly toward the chief's tent. Chief Mato waited near the edge of the village. His presence was calm and steady, like the steady heartbeat of the land itself. He nodded at her a quiet encouragement, and together they walked toward the hills, the village slowly disappearing behind them. The air smelled of wildflowers and fresh earth. Birds called to each other from the tall grasses, and the wind carried whispers that seemed almost like stories from another time. "This place," the chief began, his voice soft and steady, "has held many stories. The people before us, our ancestors, walked these plains with courage and care. They listened to the land, and in listening they learned about themselves. Today, Wayaka, you will listen too." Wayaka's heart beat quickly. She had never been out this far alone, and yet, with Chief Mato beside her, the world felt safe. They walked for some time in silence, letting the rhythm of their steps and the rustle of the grasses guide them. Every now and then, the chief would point to a distant hill or a curve in the land. "See how the wind shapes the grass. The wind will come, and you cannot control it. But you can bend, you can sway, and you can find your place." She nodded, trying to absorb the lesson. Life had always felt rigid and unyielding to her, a path of expectations and rules. Yet here, in the open plains, she felt the world was gentle, willing to move with her rather than against her. After a while, they came to a small stream that curved through the grass. Water sparkled in the sunlight, clear and singing softly over the stones. Chief Mato gestured for her to sit beside him on a flat rock near the water's edge. "The stream has its own voice," he said. "It flows without fear, without judgment. It moves where it must, yet it always finds its way. Listen carefully, Wiyaka, and you may hear what your heart wants to say." Wiyaka closed her eyes and listened. She heard the soft babble of the water, the whisper of the wind, and the distant calls of birds. And then, softly, she heard something deeper, her own heartbeat. Steady and sure, it whispered of courage, of care, of gentle strength. She imagined herself stepping into the circle of women back in the village, not with fear, but with the quiet certainty of her own heart. Chief Mato watched her carefully, his presence quiet but unwavering. "The voice inside you has always been there, Wayaka," he said. "You only need to listen. Fear will try to cover it, but it is patient and will wait for you to be ready." Wiyaka opened her eyes and looked at the chief. "I want to be ready," she whispered, "but I do not know how to trust myself." The chief smiled, a gentle curve of his lips that felt warm and encouraging. "Trust is not given, it is learned step by step. Today, you will take steps, Wiyaka, not toward the circle, not yet, but toward yourself, and when you see yourself clearly, the rest will follow." He stood and motioned for her to rise as well. Together, they followed the stream, letting its gentle sound guide them. Along the way, Chief Mato asked her questions, not to test her, but to encourage her to reflect. "What makes your heart light?" he asked. "What brings you joy without fear?" Wiyaka thought carefully. I I like to help the children in the village. I like to hear stories from the elders. And I like to weave. I feel calm when I am creating something with my hands, or when I am listening, not speaking, but understanding." The chief nodded. "These are gifts, Wiyaka. Many seek courage outside themselves in loud words or in daring deeds, but courage can also live in quiet actions, in patience, in care, in the willingness to see and listen. Your gifts are your strength. They are what make you whole." Wayaka felt warmth in her chest, a feeling she had never known. Someone had seen her, not for what she did wrong or what she feared, but for the small, quiet acts that shaped her soul. She realized that her fear had made her feel small, but it could not erase who she was. They continued walking until they reached a gentle hill that overlooked the plains. From this vantage point, the world seemed endless. Wayaka could see the village far below, smoke curling from the fires, figures moving in the golden light. And beyond, the plains stretched wide and free, the grasses dancing with the wind. Look, Chief Mato said softly, the world is wide, Wiyaka. Your heart is wide as well. You may not see it yet, but you have space to grow, space to move, and space to become yourself fully. Wayaka breathed in deeply, letting the wind fill her lungs and move through her hair. She imagined herself stepping into the circle, her hands steady, her voice soft but confident, her heart unafraid. She imagined herself weaving stories not only in baskets or songs, but in her own life. Each act of care, each gentle word, each listening ear was a thread weaving her courage together. Chief Matto crouched beside her, picking up a small stone. See this stone? He asked. It has been shaped by wind and water, by time and patience. It did not change all at once. But each day, each moment, it became what it is now. So it is with courage, Wiyaka. Wayak. Each step you take, no matter how small, shapes the heart within you. Wayaka held the stone in her hands, feeling its smoothness, its weight, and its quiet strength. I understand, she said softly. I think I can begin. The chief smiled. Yes, you can begin. Today, you have listened. You have reflected. You have seen yourself as you are. That is the first step. The next steps will come naturally when you are ready. They remained on the hill for some time, watching the clouds drift across the sky, the shadows moving across the plains. Wiyaka felt a new rhythm inside her, a quiet harmony that had not been there before. Fear still lingered at the edges, but it was softer now, less commanding. Courage, small and steady, had taken its place. As they returned to the village, the celebration sounds rose again in the distance. Wiyaka noticed the drums and laughter, not as a threat, but as an invitation. She walked more steadily now, her shoulders relaxed, her eyes bright. The village felt familiar yet new, as if she were seeing it through fresh eyes. Back at the edge of the village, Chief Mato turned to her. Remember, Wayaka, courage grows slowly. Do not rush yourself. Listen to your heart, and it will guide you. And know that you are never alone. The land, your people, and your own spirit are always with you. Wiyaka nodded, feeling a warmth she could not name. She realized that bravery was not a single moment of triumph, but a journey of small choices, of listening, of trusting herself. She had taken the first steps today, and that was enough. That evening, she returned to her small corner of the village, arranging her baskets and herbs, but her hands felt lighter, her heart freer. The songs and stories of the elders felt closer to her soul now. She listened, not from fear, but from a quiet desire to understand, to grow, to weave her courage into every action. As the sun set, painting the sky with soft purples and golds, Wiyaka gazed at the circle of women and children gathered for the evening songs. She did not step forward yet. Not today. But she smiled, feeling a quiet certainty inside her. The day would come when she would join them, not out of fear or expectation, but from the strength of her own heart. And in that moment, Wiyaka understood something new. Bravery was not the absence of fear. It was the willingness to listen, to reflect, and to take steps, even small ones, toward becoming herself fully. The journey was just beginning, but she no longer felt lost. She was guided not by the eyes of others, but by the voice of her own soul, which whispered softly yet clearly, "You are ready." The morning air was crisp, carrying the gentle scent of the plains and the faint smoke of village fires. Wayaka woke with a quiet excitement that made her heart feel light. Today, the village would hold another celebration, and for the first time she did not feel fear. She felt readiness, not for the approval of others, not to be chosen, but to honor herself and the courage she had discovered within her own heart. She dressed simply, weaving her hair into a single braid decorated with a few small feathers. She fastened a necklace her grandmother had made, beads strung carefully to symbolize patience, wisdom, and courage. As she stepped outside, the sun spilled gold across the village, and Wayaka felt a connection to everything around her. The earth beneath her feet, the sky above, the wind brushing gently against her face. Chief Mato stood near the center of the village, observing the preparations with calm attention. When he saw Wiyaka approach, his eyes brightened, but he did not speak. He only nodded, a quiet gesture that said he had noticed the change in her spirit. Wiyaka returned the nod, her shoulders steady, her heart strong. The celebration began with the beating of the drums, the sound rolling across the village like waves. Women and children gathered in a circle, faces painted with care, eyes bright with anticipation. Wayaka took her place at the edge of the circle, her gaze soft but confident. She did not need to hide, did not need to shrink herself. She had discovered that her worth was not measured by others, but by the courage she carried within. An elder stepped forward, her voice warm and clear, calling the young women forward to be honored for their contributions, their talents, and their readiness to embrace life fully. Wayaka felt a gentle thrill. This was not about being chosen or praised. This was about recognizing her own growth, the journey she had taken from fear to understanding. She stepped into the circle, moving with the quiet grace that had always been her own. Her hands rested gently at her sides, but her eyes shone with awareness and presence. The women and children turned toward her, some nodding, some smiling, but all attentive. For the first time, Wiyaka felt seen, not only for her actions, but for the person she had become. Chief Mato stepped forward, his presence calm but commanding respect. He held a small bundle of sage in his hands and gestured for Wiyaka to stand before him. Wiyaka, he said, his voice carrying across the circle. Your journey has been quiet, yet powerful. You have listened to the land, to your heart, and to the stories of those who came before us. You have discovered the courage that lives within you. Today, we honor not only your presence, but your spirit. Wiyaka's cheeks warmed, but she did not bow her head. She lifted it high, feeling the weight of her fear lift with each word. She had feared this moment for years, and now she realized that fear was not a wall, but a teacher, guiding her to the strength she had always possessed. The chief continued, the path to courage is not marked by loud deeds, but by the choices we make quietly each day. Wiyaka has chosen to face her fears, to honor her heart, and to embrace her true self. May her journey inspire us all to listen to our own voices and to walk the path of understanding and care. A soft murmur of approval rippled through the circle. Children clapped, elders smiled, and the other young women nodded respectfully. Wiyaka felt a warmth spread through her chest. She understood now that courage was not about perfection or display. It was about presence, awareness, and self-respect. After the chief spoke, Wayaka stepped to the center of the circle. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the drums and the warmth of the sun. She thought of the plains, of the wind and the grasses, of the stream and the hill where she had first heard the voice of her own soul. She felt a quiet strength flowing through her, steady and sure. Slowly, she began to move with the rhythm, not as a performance, but as an expression of herself. Her steps were light, her movements gentle, and her hands told the story of her journey, from fear to understanding, from doubt to confidence. Those around her watched in silence, captivated not by grand gestures, but by the authenticity of her presence. When she finished, she returned to her place in the circle, her breathing calm, her heart steady. The chief nodded once more, and the elder smiled, placing a hand lightly on Wiyaka's shoulder. You have walked well, child, she said. Your courage shines brightly. For the first time, Wiyaka felt a sense of belonging that was not tied to the approval of others. She belonged because she had listened to herself. She belonged because she had honored her own heart. She belonged because she had taken the journey of understanding seriously and fully. The celebration continued with songs, laughter, and stories. Wiyaka participated not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She sang softly, her voice blending with the others, and helped children weave small baskets, her hands steady and sure. Each act was a thread in the story of her courage, and she felt a quiet joy in knowing she had woven it herself. Later, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the plains with gold and purple, Chief Mato approached her again. Wayaka, he said, you have embraced your path with care and patience. You have shown us all that listening to the heart is the greatest courage of all. Remember this feeling, for it will guide you in every choice you make. Wayaka nodded, her eyes bright with gratitude. Thank you, Chief Mato, she said softly, for seeing me and for guiding me. I I feel ready now, ready to walk my own path, whatever it may be. The chief smiled, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. You are ready, Wayaka. Always have been, though it took time to see it. Your courage will continue to grow, and so will the joy you bring to others. She had learned that the journey to courage was not about rushing or showing, but about listening, understanding, and trusting. And in that quiet moment, Wiyaka knew that she was no longer the girl who had hidden at the edge of the circle. She was a young woman who had heard her own soul, who had discovered her strength, and who was ready to step fully into life. Fear held gently, understood, and no longer in control. The village slept under the blanket of stars, the plains breathing softly around them. Wayaka walked slowly to her own small tepee, her heart still beating with the rhythm of courage. She knelt briefly, giving thanks for the land, the people, the chief, and the journey she had taken. She knew that the path ahead would have challenges, but she also knew that she had the strength to meet them. Tonight she was no longer a girl afraid of being seen. Tonight she was Wiyaka, the girl who had listened to her soul, embraced her courage, and discovered the beauty of being herself fully. And with that understanding, she closed her eyes, the soft wind whispering around her, carrying the promise of new beginnings, quiet victories, and the endless journey of her heart. Fear was still strong inside her, but curiosity had begun to stir. Perhaps it was time to step a little closer to the music, to the life of the village, and to the people who moved with confidence and joy. As she arranged the small bundles of herbs for the morning rituals, a calm voice spoke beside her. Wayaka. She looked up and saw Chief Mato standing there, his expression soft, his eyes as deep and quiet as the morning sky. He did not approach her like a teacher or a leader giving orders. Instead, he stood with a gentle patience, as if waiting for her to choose whether to speak or remain silent. Yes, Chief Mato, Wayaka replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Her hands clutched the edges of the herb bundles, as though they could anchor her to the ground and steady her nerves. I see you every day, moving carefully, helping others, listening quietly, the chief said. I notice the small things that matter. The way you tend to the children, how you speak to the elders, and how your heart guides your hands. Tell me, what do you dream of, Wayaka? Wayaka blinked, startled. Few people had ever asked her such a question. Most looked only at what she did, not at the person inside. She opened her mouth to answer, but found no words that seemed good enough. Her dreams felt too small, too shy, too ordinary to speak aloud. Chief Mato smiled, not impatiently, but with encouragement. There is no need for grand words. Speak what your heart tells you. Even the smallest seed can grow into a tree. She took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of her own heartbeat, the soft hum of the village around her. Slowly she spoke, her voice quiet but steadying as she continued. I, I want to be brave. I want to join the circle, to sing and dance with the others. But I am afraid. I fear my voice is too soft. I fear I will make a mistake, and everyone will see that I am not enough. Wayaka looked around at the village, at the faces of those she had watched from the edges for so long. She no longer felt small or afraid. She felt part of something larger, connected not only to the people around her, but to the land and the traditions that shaped them all. She had learned that courage was quiet, steady, and patient. It did not need applause or recognition. It only needed listening, care, and trust in oneself. As the evening deepened, the villagers gathered around the central fire, sharing stories and songs of the day. Wayaka sat quietly among them, her heart full. She watched the flames dance and felt the warmth on her face. The wind carried whispers of the plains, of grasses and streams, and of ancestors who had walked these lands before, and in that gentle sound Wayaka heard her own voice, calm and clear, speaking the truth she had always known. I am enough. I am ready. I am brave in my own way. The circle continued late into the night, but Wiyaka's attention drifted to the stars above. The sky stretched wide and infinite, the same sky that had watched over generations before her. She imagined the ancestors looking down with quiet pride, seeing a girl who had faced her fear, listened to her soul, and embraced her path. Chief Mato stood nearby, watching the celebration with a quiet satisfaction. He did not need to speak. Wayaka had discovered what he had hoped she would: the courage to honor her own heart, the patience to trust herself, and the wisdom to understand that fear was not the enemy, but a guide. As the fire burned low and the stars grew brighter, Wayaka rose and walked to the edge of the circle. She looked once more at the village, at the people she loved, and at the plains stretching beyond. She felt light, free, and strong in a way she had never imagined.